I'm leaving Bear Mountain, New York, walking across the Hudson River. This is the lowest spot on the Appalachian Trail, just less than 200 feet above sea level. And you can see the sun is just coming up. I'm going to meet my daughter Brooke in about 3 hours, and she's going to hike with me for the next 2.5 days. So a little noisy here with the morning traffic, but thought I would just show you this. In a minute we'll be able to look down the Hudson River towards New York City. And beautiful morning. It's nice and cool. It's supposed to be a little warm this week, but should be pretty dry. So here we go. Looking down the Hudson this morning. And of course, West Point is right here. Just a tiny bit up the river is where West Point is. Anyway, you can also see this ridge line over here, and see that fairly steep mountain coming down. I believe that's the road coming down to New York 17. A very steep climb we did a few days ago. All right, we'll be back. Here's our guest hiker.
We're on a video. Hello.
This is Brooke's last day. We forgot to get her on the video. We want to make sure we get her up there. We had 2 good days, and last night it poured rain, and it poured and poured. And fortunately, Brooke is heading off the trail today, go back to New York and do some things, and we're going to get back together in Connecticut in a couple of days. But New York has been very interesting. Been a lot of different variety of hiking. Some very, very tough stuff, which I've shown you before. And the last 2 days have been pretty moderate, but plenty of challenge. The physical hiking has been interesting because of diversity. The physical beauty has not been anything particular, just the woodlands. We really haven't had any great views, 1 or 2, and I've hopefully highlighted those in a video or a still. But Brooke's first day out, though, it was, if you looked at the profile, it looked like a relatively modest, flattish, rolling hike, and the profile kind of hid a lot of very steep ups and downs, and we just went from one to another, and they weren't notable due to the amount of elevation, but they were notable for their steepness, both going up and coming down. So it was a tough day. We'll get Brooke hiking towards the camera before we quit, and maybe we'll have something else to add. That's all for now. Thanks for joining us. Okay, this is my last day in the state of New York. Got a beautiful morning, if a little warm, and they're saying we have an enormous historic heat wave coming, and it's going to be multiple days. So I can't say I'm looking forward to that. We'll have to come up with a strategy to beat the heat. One of them is I'm not going to hike tomorrow. So when I get into Connecticut later today, my brother-in-law, my younger sister's husband, is going to pick me up, and I'm going to stay with them. And then the girls, Amy and Brooke, are going to come up from New York City, and we're gonna have a little 4th of July family, and that'll be tomorrow actually, and I won't have to hike. So I wanted to show you this because New York has been, at least my thinking, has been a very diverse state for hiking, and this isn't normally what you think of when you think of New York, but it's often been beautiful, often been in the trees. The thing most notable to me about New York has been the variety, the diversity of trail. We have first got into New York at Prospect Rock, and it was gorgeous, and you were along a ridge, up and down across a ridge for 4 miles, and it was fun, it was pretty, there were great views. It was not too dangerous in terms of the rocks. And then the next day was, I just have to say, one of the biggest kick in the behinds I've had. I didn't see it coming. A lot of very steep climbs, incredibly steep descents, and a wickedly hard day. And then Brooke joined me, and we had a day that looked like it was fairly flat, a little up and down here and there, and turned out to be a very vicious day with these short ups and downs, but vertical and difficult, and we had a very tough day, even though if you look at the map profile, it was looked pretty flat, not all big elevation climbs or descents. So we survived that day. It was a pretty day. The next day we got up and it was cloudy, helped for hiking a little bit so it wasn't too hot, and we had a different kind of trail that day. It was not as many ups and downs, steep up and downs. It was an interesting trail at times. Oftentimes it was a nice smooth path through the woods, and just a lot of diversity. Yesterday we went through a swamp before Brooke headed back to the city, and now I'm hiking. I've been about almost 30 minutes hiking through these pastures. So a lot of diversity, a lot of variety in the environment and the type of hiking. The physical hiking has been more diverse than there's been a lot of great scenery, but this was really pretty. So we'll have a few more things, I think, before we leave New York, but by the end of the day I should be in Connecticut.